Sensitize democracy.
Democracy for you and me.
Democracy must in your dollar fee. Get back on the Gambia fee.
Gambia, just you and me.
Sani kata moyo nyu. Lunyu wafi. Sani kata moyo nyu. Lunyu wafi. Sani kata moyo nyu. Lunyu wafi.
Good evening, wonderful viewers. It's yet another evening here from Sahel Network TV. From our studios in Banjul, we bring to you yet another episode of the Ballot Power Show. And today in the studio, I have with me a young gentleman called Sang Mendy. How are you, Sang?
Yeah, I'm fine, thanks, Kaddy.
Welcome to the Ballot Power Show.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The theme for today's show is going to be setting the agenda 1 month before the presidential elections. And Sang, when we say setting the agenda a month before the presidential elections, what does this really send your mind to?
Yeah, thank you so much, Kaddy. Setting the agenda means putting everything in place before elections, engaging on national discussions, issues of national interest. Because if you look at it, election is a very crucial thing to our living, because whatsoever that we do is because of elections, that we have to go to the polls that very day and vote for our leaders, for somebody that we want to lead this country, take this country forward. So therefore, setting the agenda means making sure that we have the right leader, somebody that we believe can actually deliver us from the hurdles of whatsoever that we are going on, whether poverty, youth unemployment, issues of education, infrastructure, and then other things. So it's to discuss about national issues in order to make sure that we have the right candidate that will be able to take this country forward. Because if you look at it, governance or government is a social contract with the people. We give them our votes, we put them to office, and then they will deliver to their promises on the things that they want. We want them to do for us. So therefore, we really have to engage on national discussion. We really have to engage our politicians. We really have to engage our opinion leaders in order for them to tell us what do they have for us going towards election, because we cannot just be blindfolded that this is what they are going to do, and they will not give us concrete evidence that they are going to do it. So we should move away from the type of politics into something that we believe that anytime that they talk about their promises, they will fulfill it going to their governance process.
Indeed, indeed. When we talk about it as well, before we get to that stage, actually, election comes. So why do we hold elections?
Well, we hold election for a simple purpose, to have somebody that will lead the country, because all of us cannot go to State House. Obviously, we need one person to be there to lead the country, and then we will be the followers. So whatsoever that we have to do, we have to go to the ballot, we have to go to the polls and then elect somebody, and that person is going to be there to steer the affairs of the country. And then we, the people, are going to hold an individual accountable. So election is something that is very, very important to our daily life. We really have to participate in elections. So it should not be like, I should not participate in elections and all that stuff. It should be a legal mandate to each and everybody, as guided by our laws. Like a certain age, 18 years above, you really have to participate, you really have to vote. So it should be our right. It should be something that we know that we are proud of it, going to say, okay, I am going to vote, I'm going to choose a leader, I'm going to make a decision, because that is your voice. Your vote is your power, and it's also your voice. If you don't vote, therefore you're going to talk about issues of national development. So you're going to talk about like, okay, the country is not moving forward, and it is time for election, and you don't go to vote. So therefore you're going to discuss about of governance.
Like we always say here in Sahel, just like the song in the beginning of the program stated. So what are the issues to look out for when it comes to voting? What should you as a voter look out for?
Well, the first thing that you need to look out before going for elections, who is that person, who is that that politician, who is that presidential aspirant that will going to deliver this country when it comes to the issue of healthcare, because it's a problem in this country. We really have to look at our health facilities, our health structures. It is always very sad if you go out to the countryside, to the provinces. I mean, you see the way people live when it comes to access to healthcare. It's a problem. So that is one thing that we really have to look at. The issue of education is also a problem. You go to the provinces, you see the structure is there, but then they don't have seats, they don't have teachers. So what should we do in order to help those kids? Because it is very important. Those kids are part of the Gambia, they are Gambians. So we really have to look at them. And then it also comes to the issue of youth unemployment. It's a problem. Crime rate is on the rise. And what is the problem? Because these youths are not employed. So therefore, the only way that they will do to earn a living is to go out and do something. So that is why the crime rate is on the rise and all that stuff. So if you tackle the issue of youth unemployment, therefore, it's going to address the issue of crime. So that is something that we really have to look at. The issue of infrastructure, and then water, and so forth and so forth. So these are some of the things that we really have to look at critically in order to make sure that we have that candidate who is going to give us, we're not talking about only giving us promises and stuff there. There are not promises. Yes, you can come and tell individual, I'm going to do this thing, but how are you going to do it? Give us a timeline that I'm going to do this thing. We obviously know that if you look at governance process, I mean, if you look at governance in general, it's a process, and it's something that is very tedious. It requires commitment, dedication, and focus. But then also we need something that is reasonable. You cannot just come and tell me that I am going to do this thing without giving me evidence, without giving me something that will, that will at least give me the hope that you're going to do this thing. So I think it's something that we really have to look at, do. But then also, if you look at that issue also, how many people are there to question this presidential aspirant that you said that you're going to do this thing? How are you going to do it? It's only a few. The few people that are privileged to go to school, it's just a percentage. And then that percentage, I mean, when it comes to decision making or when it comes to voting, they just form a small segment of the society. So I think we really have to, get away from the politics of like, I am being affiliated with this individual because of party color, because of our ethnic line, because of our religious line and all that stuff. But to look at their policies is very, very important. That is how a nation develops, and that is what we want in the Gambia. I always tell people, in 2016, we voted for a change. We voted for democracy, and here we are in that process. 2021, this election that we are in, should be issue of national development. We already set the stage rolling in 2016, coming forward. So this year should be development. That is what we need to focus on. And then we really have to vote for that individual that we believe can able to take this country forward. Because one individual cannot do it alone. It's a collective effort. It's a concerted effort. One will have to start it, and the other one will continue, and then you have another one who will end it on the other side.
Indeed, but then Sang, I would like to take you a bit back to a point where you mentioned it's not only about giving promises. Yes, these people will come to our surroundings, estates where we stay, and they will give us their promises. And how would you know that what this person is telling you is not sincere? You are going to vote, and different people pass through. They're all standing for the elections, and they tell you, I'm going to take care of all your difficulties. I'm aware that it's difficult to get access to health, access to water, proper resources here and there. And you, as the person going to vote, you're going to vote once in every 5 years. And this person comes, you tend to believe them. Is it on the side of the voter, or actually the side of the leader who made this promise?
Well, yes, if you also look at it, somebody will come and tell you that, okay, I'm going to do this thing. And then you tend to wonder, how will you know that the individual, what the individual is saying is something that he or she will be able to deliver? There are other promises that one will look at or you listen to. You obviously know that this is next to impossible. Like, you cannot just come and tell me that, looking at the very big community and say that, okay, I'm going to change the standard of living, for example, in Banjul, within a span of 1 year. That, if you need to do that, you need to first make a baseline study on what is the root cause of the reason why people are living in abject poverty. You need to establish those facts. So if you don't establish the facts, therefore it's going to be very difficult for you to solve the problem. You can say, okay, this is the problem, but then I want to solve this problem. Without knowing what are the underlying causes, you cannot address that particular problem. So therefore, if you come to me as a potential voter, somebody who is planning to vote for come December 4th, and you tell me that, okay, son, I'm going to change I'm going to remove all the people around this end from poverty to a more standard of living, the first thing that I will ask you is, how do you intend to do that? Have you done any baseline survey to know what is the root cause of these people? Because one thing that politicians are very good at, they will look at a success story in one place and then tend to align it to another place. But one thing that I always tell them is, in terms of development, there are two things. Yes, you can go and do a feasibility study or learn from somebody's experience and then bring it to your country. But then one thing that you have to look at, are the realities the same? Whether what is happening in Brikama is the same thing that is happening in Banjul. So therefore something can be applicable in Banjul, it's not going to be applicable in Brikama. So that's one thing that they will that they want to bring in. And they will come and tell you, okay, that it has worked in this place, and I also believe. No, you should not believe. That you need to be sure that it will work in this place. And what are some of the things that you will do in order to make sure that it will work? So that is how we need to do. And then if you vote in an election, and then the individual, based on the individual promises, and the individual refuse to honor those promises, the next election, you have the right to vote against the individual. So that is it. That is what we need to do. In 2011, I made a decision. I went to the polls and voted. In 2016 also, I went to the polls to vote against somebody based on something that he said that he's going to do this, but he didn't do it. So in come this year's election also, the same thing will happen. So that is how you do. If somebody come to your area and promise you that I'm going to do this, at the end of the day, the individual didn't do it. The only way to hold that person accountable is to vote against that individual. Because here, I mean, we don't have something like an audit system where you say, okay, probably after every 3 years you have a national debate or a national discussion to audit or to engage your representative, your president or whosoever on the promises that they have made. I think that is something that is very important going forward in a more democratical society, that we really have to engage our leaders, our opinion leaders, on things that they promise to do. So in that case, you will see to it that they will be more serious on things that they really have to do, because election is very, very important. We know it or not, but that very day you go to that day and they give you that marble is something that is very important. Some people say, okay, this small marble, but that small marble can make a change. So we really have to understand that there are importance of voting. The issues of healthcare, if you say, okay, there is no good healthcare, we have dilapidated structure here and there, we have chance to go and vote. Engage your leaders. Know the person that you think that can able to deliver you from that circles, and then you vote for that individual. So that is what we are saying. That is the importance of elections. We need to hold our leaders to account.
Indeed, we need to hold our leaders to account. But then in a case that someone has already made the decision not to vote flatly, because I have not seen any of these candidates who can actually bring to me what we want. I've been voting for years, I've not seen change, or my vote doesn't count. What kind of advice do you have for people who've already put that thought behind their minds before the elections and are actually holding a valid voter's card?
Yes, if you also look at it at this point also, you have the ones that they call the protest voters. These are the people whom you know that they don't vote not because they don't want to vote, or they don't vote because they don't have somebody that they believe that they can vote for the individual. I can have a valid voter's card and then they will say, okay, I'm not going to vote because all these politicians, all these people, I don't trust them. They are all the same. So therefore I'm not going to vote. That individual is protesting that he is not going to vote because he didn't have confidence in those people. And some people will just sit down and say that they are not going to vote because, their vote cannot make a change. Then whether they vote or not, they are all the same. But one thing that we have to understand, this is the time that we really have to focus. If you are there and you haven't decided yet, those undecided voters, read the manifesto of these politicians, follow their campaign trail, follow their words, follow their promises, and then make a decision. You can make a decision within 1 week. You can make a decision within a month. Within days, you can make a decision. So therefore, the people that you think that yes, these people, at least I have a little trust in them, I will have to listen to what they are saying. The message that they are sending out to people their campaign manifesto and promises. And on that, I can able to make a decision. That if I see that these are genuine points, these are points that I believe that it will able to move this country forward, then I will able to vote for that particular individual. So that is it. But then in every election, you're going to rule that out. You must have people whom you know that yes, they will stay at the sideline to say that, okay, I'm not going to vote because I don't have any person that I'm going to vote for. For that one, you're going to rule it out. But then what we are saying is there is still room for you to able to engage these people, read their manifestos, and make a decision well before elections.
Also, you've mentioned that the crime rate and all those things. To prevent things like this, we actually have to help the youth out there to be able to get something to be doing instead of sitting back there to just come out and do crimes of such, or even make other people's lives a bit difficult, which tends to scare most people currently. Huh? So how do we actually empower these youths to ensure that the crime rate and other problems that we're encountering coming from the youth will be solved?
Yes, Kaddy, to that point, we really have to look at two things here. The issue of youth and employment, and then the issue of drugs, and then corruption. I will come to that. So when you look at the issue of youth and employment, yes, there is no enough for the youths. I mean, to me, what I believe that not everybody can go to school and then learn and then have the whatsoever that they want to have. We also need to look at the issue of the vocational training. It's very, very important. And then in that also it has to link to our mindset, to we the youths also. I mean, it doesn't mean that when you engage into this vocational education, you cannot make it in life. We see people whom you know that they went through the vocational education. And then these are the people that we are celebrating today, the world class in this country. You understand? They went through this vocational education. So we really have to more vocational trainings for these people to at least have something, have a skill, whether it's going to be in electricity, in plumbing, and whatsoever. And then after equipping these people with these skills, then we need to create that job employment for us, for them. Then we have to create those avenues to get them into the system, to get them to work. But then you cannot ask somebody to go to GDTI after 3 years and the individual will come out and sit for another 3 years in order to have a job. No. After studying, consume them into the system. Let them. We have different institutions, we have different government parastatals to see how best that we will create employment avenues for these young people, because it's very important. And then if we do that, we now look at the issue of drugs. Now, when we look at drugs, these harsh drugs, we don't have them in the Gambia here, but they are being imported. How do they come to the country? They come through our ports. You understand? What is the problem? That some of them, what they do, they will bring these drugs, get connection with some of these people working in these agencies in order to smuggle the drugs inside. So in that case, you will see to it that there is a problem that is wrong with our governance structure. Do you understand? And then the issue of corruption also comes to play. How do these drugs enter our country and to those young people? That is what we need to look at. That is why sometimes I'm always like, okay, you have the drug law agencies. The officials will go out and raid these boys, arrest them and take them. But then they will not look, where are these drugs coming from? That is something that you really have to do. Yes, you can reduce the drugs, arrest those people, but then if you arrest them, you prosecute them, they will go and spend time in jail, come out again, continue using the drugs. But if you want to minimize it, what you do, you look at the roots. How do those drugs enter this country? That is where you need to stop it. And that's where you need, if you stop it there, obviously, the usage of it is going to be minimized in that country because they will not have access to it. Anytime that they have access, they will use it. So you need to block the route, the entry. How are those drugs coming to this country? So these are two things. So combining unemployment and the usage of drugs together force these people to go out. And anytime that they go out is to create, violence. And then also the issue of crime rates. So that is what we need to stop. The issue of youth and employment have to really be tackled. And then the issue of drug entrance in this country, because it's on the rise. Anywhere you go to the drugs hotspot country in this country here, you will see all different kinds of drugs. And these officers will go and raid them, arrest them and take them. Tomorrow they are out.
going back to using the same drum, and at night they will go to the street, start robbing and doing other things. So that is something that we really have to tackle in order to solve the problem. And it's very, very crucial also. The increase of crime rate going towards election is a threat to in every democratic society, because any slight mistake, those people will use that opportunity to go out and then start looting and other stuff. So we really have to be very, very, very careful going towards election when it comes to the issue of youth and also crime. So we really have to engage them very seriously. Serious discussion really have to be in place.
I would like to come there. I also believe that youth actually have to also have a stand, not to be the people to be blamed all the time. We have all sort of people indeed, but then you have your fellow youth out there who chose to work, who chose to do the right thing. In as much as things are difficult, there is no job, and they tend to go into drugs due to frustration and the like. It's also important we talk about the fact that there are other things we can do. We can start apprenticeship and carpenter shops. We can start working in metalware and all those things. Why can't we try to look at those things instead of looking forward to something bigger? I mean, it's gone past the stage that youth have to be just there behind and always come up to do the bad. You know?
Yeah, so
How do you think we can actually encourage each other to change this attitude that we are all being known for, that we are always notorious and we are the ones behind all the violence? How do we change this?
yes, to me, I mean, if one thing that we have to do, youths really have to also step up. You understand? The issue of attitude is also in place, because I have discussion with many young people, especially of my age and other stuff. But all what they will tell you when it comes to the issue of, you mentioned apprenticeship, all what they will tell you is like, I mean, fufu amut halis. Man, I would rather prefer to go to Europe, especially when the backway thing was up. I would rather go to Europe than to be paid 1,500 every month. But then, to me, I don't have problem with that, because even people working in the formal sector in this country, security officers, are earning less than that.
And
so
you can actually come up with skills after your apprenticeship.
Exactly. So that is it. So you can start an apprenticeship for a period of time, and then you have your own business. You have your own place where you also employ people. So that is something that we really have to look at. We should not actually focus more on the pay. Yes, as time goes on, the pay will increase, but you have to start it somewhere else. Things you just don't always start it one day and make everything perfect. It's a learning stage, it's a process. So if we put that thing at the back of our mind, and those opportunities are created for them, and the incentives are also in place, obviously, those people also have to step up to make sure that they take the driving force. And then the other thing also, going towards election, we should not be allowed to be used by these politicians. The youth should not be allowed to be used by these politicians. We also ought to take responsibility. Anything that happens in this country, post December 4th, is going to be the collective responsibility of each and everybody. Whether you went to the polls to vote or not, but as each and every young person or every Gambian is going to be held responsible on what is going to happen. So it's a collective responsibility, and we really have to focus on that to make sure that we vote wisely for the person that we think can able to deliver us. On the issue of good governance, corruption, youth unemployment, issues of health, education, infrastructure, and then we move forward, because the development of this country lies on election and also peace. Without peace, then let's just forget about national development.
Yeah.
So we really have to balance ourselves going towards the December polls.
Indeed. Mbokk yi ñoo ko déggandoor ba tey seen programme yi Ballot Power Show la ngeen ànd ak man Adja Kaddy Sanyang tey nag am naa fi ki nga xam ne mooy Sang Mendy. Sang nag moom tey teewee na fii ci Sahel Network TV rek pour ñu waxtaanee mbir yi nga xam ne moom lañ war di bàyyi xel balaa li nga xam ne mooy élection di jot si ñi nga xam ne ñoom nga sànni lan nga war a bàyyi xel ci ñoom, lan nga war a seet muy doon wér gu yaram li nga xam ne mooy jànga nu ñoo wàññee mbirum njuuj njaaj fii ci biir réew mi ak li nga xam ne sax mooy crime ndaw ñi di génn si mbedday sax di jéem a yaaxat di nangu bagage nit ñi ñu xool tamit naka la ñoo defee ba nga gis ne ndaw ñi nga xam ne ñoo toog si kër yi soxla luñ def ñu doole leen sang dinaa bàyyi tuuti nga waxtaan ak mbokkay ci lu gàtta balaa ñu waxtu bi di xoj rek ci mbiru li nga xam ne moo nekk li nga xam ne moom lañu war a seet balaa élection si seen bopp di dugg mbir yi nga xam ne war nañ koo bàyyi xel benn weer rek balaa élection di ñëw.
Kaddy jërëjëf sànni carte dafa nekk loo xam ne lu baax la si biir dëkk because si sànni carte si la ñoo fal suñ nguur kuñ foog ne moo ñu mun a war a jiite because comme nu ma ko waxee rek ñëpp duñ mun a dugg si palais bi kenn nit la ñoo dem ñu dem bésu woote ñu dem ñu saaneel ko ñu ne ko ok yow demal nga toog foofu noonu te luñ bugg si biir réew mi nga defal ñu ko dafaa nekk comme contrat rek la muy nekk ñun den laa jël ñu teg la foofu noonu pour nga defal ñu loo xam ne mooy war a yóbbu réew mi kanam waaye su nekkee ne da nga fal nguur nga teg ko foofu noonu nga gis ne kii nii nekku di def loo xam ne moom la génne si yoon mu wax ne daf koo def ba mu tax ma war a jóg bés boobu noonu dem saani ji karta dem saaneel ko beneen sànni karta ñëw mun ngaa war a taxaw nga génnee kooku noonu foofu because nit yi dañ dee wax ne njiit yàlla moo ko fa teg waaye man dam dee wax ne ñun ñoo jóg ñu dem sànni suñ karta pour kooku mun a toog foofu noonu kooku toogut këram rek war a ñaakaa génn si nit yi rek mu war a dem dugga ji si palais bi ñun ñoo génn ñu dem sànnil ko waaye su nekkee ne dafa war a ñëw toog comme moo ko waxee tamit élection mu ngeen ñëw benn weer ak ay fan ñoo si tegu pour ñu war a dugga élections léegi si li ñu war a seet because yaa nga leen di jooy dëkk bi suñu lopitaan bi dafa am problème dangaa dem si yeneen school si xale yi ñu ngi foofu noonu de waaye ñu leen di jàngal nekkuñ foofu noonu nga xool yëfi ndox dangaa dem si yeneen dëkk ndox bu ñuy naan sa problème la nga war a jógee fii ñu dox ay kilomètres pour war a uti ji ndox loolu tamit dañ ko war a seet ak ndaw yoo xam ne nekkuñ di liggéey ba pare crime rate bi mu ngi yokku si biir dëkk bi naka la ñoo def pour ñu mun a xool dañ saafara loolu noonu yëpp because war nañoo passé dëkk boo xam ne dañoo war a toog nga war a dem lopitaan doo am garab nga war a dem lopitaan sa nit ki feebar ñu tëddal ko ñu ne la nga war a dem uti koo xam ne moo laay may deret nga war a dem si social media bi di lifin maa ngi am suma mbokk bu feebar so dama bëgg ku koy may deret loolu noonu yëpp dañ fa war a passé so nga pare nga xool tamit loo xam ne like crime rate bi mu ngi yokk comme nu ma ko dee wax rek ñi ngi digmal si élection dañu war a make sure ne suñ youth ñoo xam ne how to call di crime rate si biir dëkk bi fii nii ñu xool naka lañ koo saafarale xam naa ne jege na élection bu baax waaye tamit dafa nekk loo xam ne tamit loo xam ne lu ndaw mooy mun a xew bés after election dina mun a yaaxal lu bëri si biir dëkk bi ak lu ñu yaaga di defar yi dina ko mun a yaaxal so loolu noonu dafa bokk si loo xam ne dañ ko war a bàyyi xel bu baax a baax a baax nguur booy njiit booy xam ne dafa taxaw mu ne la waaw man su ma toogee lii ak lii laa leen di defaral laaj ko naka nga koy defee ba pare nga wax ñu ne soo toogee ban diir la muy am pour nga war a koo mun a def ba pare tamit suñ njiit yi tamit dañ war a di génn dañ war a bàyyi di génn suñ génnee ñu ne nit yi ne waaw su nekkee da ngaa uti dara mun ngaa wax lu la neex dem soo demee ba nga toog nga def loo bëgg léegi loolu dafa war a passé man loolu noonu dafa war a passé dañu war a move si stage boobu noonu loo xam ne mënuloo koo def jarul ngay taxaw di wax nit yi ne damaa def lii nii because dafa war a passé stage boobu noonu waaye loolu moo de nekk di happen every elections bu ñëw ndax presidential election la ndax local governments election la but loolu la dee nekk da nga gis nit ku ñëw mu taxaw mu ne waaw man damaa def lii nii last parliamentary election bi dama dem si benn ward mu am ku nekk di campagne mu ne gars yi ne dama leen di tabaxal school dama leen di lifinal lii ma ne gars yi déedéet ba député du la mun a wax ne dama la tabaxal school loolu mooy pas possible so loolu lañu war a bàyyi xel bu baax a baax ñu ngi digmal si élection buñ ñëw rek nit mu ñëw mu jox la nga lekk nga naan ba pare nga tàccu ko nga ne ko waa naa la jox sa carte danga ko war a toog nga waxtaan ak moom nam la wax ne damaa def lii te lii ak lii laa ko war a defee da nga war a koo gis si moom ne kooku mun na laa mun naa def loolu noonu because 2016 dañ vote pour change because Gambia nekkoon nañ si dara ñu dem élection ñu vote ñu ne dañ bëgg a change démocratie lañ bëgg a so ñu vote ko léegi this year's election dafa war a nekk vote for development dañoo sànni carte pour dëkk bi dem si kanam yaa nga leen di jooy da ngaa gis ne nawet bi dafaa ñëw nawet mu ngi soog a jeesi na nga pour dem si yeneen place problème la mooy nekka so loolu noonu yëpp la ñu war a bàyyi xel ban nguur la ñoo am koo xam ne daf ñu mun a saafara loolu noonu nit yi ñu ngi génn si dëkk bi di ñaan pour lu ñuy lekk sax dafa nekk problème soo demee traffic lights problème la you understand ba Westfield sax naka la ñoo mun a def pour mun a gis ne nit yi génn siwuñ seen mbir bi pour ñaan lu ñuy lekk loolu dañ war a passé jamono boobu noonu loolu lañ war a mun a xool pour mun a xool naka la ñoo développé dëkk bi ak yëf yoo xam ne la yëf yi njuuj njaaj nga war a def lii nii nga kool nit ngeen ko ok defaral ma lii nga jox ko xaalis boobu war a xam ne dafa war a dugal si nguur bi waaye mu dugal ko si poosam loolu noonu yëpp lañu war a bàyyi xel because loolu noonu suñ ko defut dañ war a pompe yëpp lañu war a tëj loolu noonu suñ ko defut dañ dëkk bi du mun a dem si kanam da nga gis ku fa mun a toog dafa ne balaa may liggéeyal nguur bi bàyyi nga feesal suma poos bi foog naa ne loolu noonu dañ si war a génn dañ si war a passé so bëgguñu dem into elections nga ñëw fii ni ngeen ñëw damaa def lii at the end of the day doo ko def let your promises to the Gambian people be your promises that you can deliver to them but waru la nekk loo xam ne dangaa ñëw wax rek pour war a mun a am ay votes dañ war a passé foofu noonu xam naa ne dafa naxari trop waaye dañ war a passé stage boobu noonu
ñu ne tamit di si gën a bàyyi xel comme waxtu bi jeex na rek sax dinaa bàyyi nga tàggatoo nit ñi
jërëjëf Kaddy suma last word bi mooy nekk yëfi hate speech dañu war a bàyyi suñu xel bu baax a baax comme nu ma ko waxee rek lu mun a xew si election bi in December 4th ñun ñooy held responsible lu fa mun a xew rek ñun ñoo ko def so ne leen try by all means suñuy campagne suñuy dem si nit yi suñuy waxtaan ak suñu mbokk yi na nekk yëfi waxtaan ak nu ñu mun a aaree dëkk bi waaye bul war a nekk di génn di saaga nit ki di use social media hate speech ak yooyu noonu loolu yëpp amul njëriñ because election dina dem ñëw ñun la Gambia fii nii comme ni ñu ko dee waxee election comes and goes at the end of the day we are all Gambians we all stay in this country so so on that note Karim maa laa jaajëfal pour normal
jërëjëf Sang mbokk yi loolu lañ leen amaloon tey si Ballot Power Show bi ak mu nekk Sang fii si biir studio bi ak man Adja Kaddy Sanyang ñu bàyyi leen rek ba beneen bés si biir semaine bi rek dinañ leen indilaat beneen épisode yi Ballot Power Show comme niñ ko dee faralee di indi di leen jaajëfal ci seetaan bi nga xam ne yéen ak ñu ko faral a seetaan sànni leen karta nit ke sànni karta mooy li ñu war pledge for peace and pledge to vote ñu nekk si jaama fii si biir réew mi ba nga xam ne jamonoy élection yi dinañ si génn ñun ñëpp fekkee ko tamit si jaama jërë ngeen jëf.
Sensitize democracy.
Democracy.